we're in the high Sonoran Desert here, so there's plenty of vegetation, and especially so if it's just left alone. You just look around and the density of the natural vegetation really stands out and gives it that forest appeal.
Designed by Red Lawrence, Desert Forest Golf Club was the only sign of civilization here in the desert north of Scottsdale when it opened in 1962.
Prior to this golf course being here, there was largely nothing up here in the town of Carefree. As a matter of fact, we tapped the first water well for the town of Carefree to build a golf course. Largely considered the first desert-style golf course ever built, or certainly within the Southwest. So it's unique in that respect. And it just has a lot of character.
The crew does not maintain the desert around the course. It just starts where the turf stops, and the turf is kept rough around the edges.
Originally, when Red Lawrence designed the golf course, there was very little earth moving done in the fairways, just largely around the tee and green complexes. So the flow and the routing of the land is unlike really anything you've ever seen elsewhere. This is a real true test of golf, and it's always been considered to be one of the more difficult golf courses in the Southwest. I would say our members are pure golf enthusiasts. Yeah, you have to be aware of where you're going to hit your shot here, and it's a very tight golf course. There's not a whole lot of room for error, and recovery can be difficult if you're in the wrong spot.
The 50-plus-year-old push-up greens were originally grassed with Seaside, the predecessor to Seaside 2, a current bent grass from Tee-2-Green.
Seaside 2, a lot of people don't know this, was actually taken from our 10th green. Dr. Duich was on a site visit here decades ago and noticed some segregation going on the 10th green and thought it was quite interesting.
Architect David Zinkan headed up a renovation in 2013 that included the greens. For the grass, the club chose Penn A4.
The selection of a bent grass at a high-end private club is always a difficult decision. Or what I did, at least, was I just went and talked to my neighbors first and foremost. I just want to see what everybody has, what people are doing now, what works, what has worked for the last few decades in the North Scottsdale area. As far as the A4 goes, we felt that it had at least some history, some good history here locally. Every 5 years or so, you always seem to see a new cultivar of bent grass that comes out that is supposed to be the best option out there. And 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you start to figure out what it doesn't do all that well.
Todd says the A4 greens don't require a lot of water to tolerate the dry, hot summers here.
These greens have been excellent in the summertime, even on greens that are only a year and a half old. We're able to go 5-6 days without much of a challenge whatsoever, which is pretty amazing considering it's 110 or 115 degrees out every single day.
Todd is still figuring out how the new greens like to be treated.
They're a year and a half old. I have not aerified yet, but at some point in the future we will. It's just a matter of when. We're just kind of gauging that on a season-by-season basis. We believe that brushing, grooming, verticutting, and top dressing of these greens, especially with the A4, is critical to the long-term success.
The crew walk mows the greens every day.
The height of cut on the greens varies again throughout the year. That's one thing that a lot of people forget. Down here in the Phoenix area, what we do in the wintertime can be vastly different than what we do in the summertime. So heights of cut are always changing. On the A4, we can get these down to below a tenth of an inch without much problem at all. The A4, what we found is anywhere between 85 or 90 thousandths of an inch all the way up to 125, depending on the time of the year. Really kind of seems to be right in its wheelhouse.
The fertilization practices depend on a variety of factors.
I average about 1/8 of a pound of N through foliar spray about every 7 to 10 days. In the summertime, when it's hot and humid, I back off that considerably, and I can go a month without spraying the greens at all. But just kind of depends on the time of year, depends what I want them to do.
Desert Forest is a golfer's golf course, designed for play and managed to be different from the others here in the Scottsdale area.
We kind of like to consider ourselves kind of the opposite of what everybody else is, or we like to refer to ourselves as what everybody else isn't.